introduced HPV vaccines for the first time, making a total of 50 out of 56 Commonwealth countries who are now protecting girls against cervical cancer. I thank the United Kingdom for its support for HPV vaccines and Australia for supporting enhanced screening. I also commend Australia, Japan, India, and the United States for their new initiative, the Quad Cancer Moonshot, to help end cervical cancer in the Indo-Pacific. Thank you all for your commitment to realizing our shared dream to make cervical cancer history. I thank you.
Thank you. And now to welcome us here, can I present the Honorary Fiame Naomi Mata Afa, who's the Prime Minister of Samoa, the first woman to serve as Samoa's head of government. She serves as Minister of Education, Minister of Women, Minister of Justice, Deputy Prime Minister, and with this vast portfolio of knowledge, she's really now trying to make sure that Samoa takes its place as a full advocate for change for girls and women. Thank you.
Your Majesty, Excellencies and distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Talo Falava and a very good afternoon to you all. I am honored to welcome you to this important event on advocating for women and girls in the Commonwealth. I would like to begin by recognizing the success of the Commonwealth Women's Forum held earlier this week, where we highlighted women's political, economic, and societal contributions while identifying policies to advance gender equality and peace for all. I have received such positive feedback on the wealth of knowledge and experience exchanged, with many pleased to be taking home some of the lessons learnt from these dialogues. I am pleased that we can focus here on sharing practical experiences on advocacy in countering violence against women and in the push to eliminate cervical cancer. Advocacy remains a critical tool. Samoa launched domestic campaigns to raise the importance of efforts on ending violence against women and girls and prevention and ending cervical cancer at the regional and international conferences. This includes the Marlborough House Dialogue, hosted by the Commonwealth Secretary-General in March of 2023. The event was attended by Her Majesty the Queen, spouses of heads of Commonwealth member countries, and representatives from government, business, academic, and civil society. Samoa collaborates with non-governmental organizations, faith-based organizations, and our community leaders in our work on ending violence against women. We also recognize the importance of youth in driving change, and we support initiatives that engage youth in discussions about gender equality and violence prevention. Civil society, women's committees, NGOs are all key partners in our consultation on national policies and legislations. Samoa is committed to reforming legal frameworks aimed at protecting women from violence and holding perpetrators accountable. We spearheaded the Samoa Cervical Cancer Elimination Strategy, which outlines a vision for the elimination of cervical cancer in Samoa and a set of strategies and actions to move Samoa towards the elimination of new diagnosis of cervical cancer. I congratulate the Secretary General for her leadership and advocacy on ending violence against women and creating lasting change at systemic levels, helping to reshape policies, societal norms, and public attitudes towards violence against women through, inter alia, the Commonwealth Says No More initiative. The whole system approach strategy to help and end violence against women and improve gender equality and project on economic costing of violence against women and girls. I want to congratulate the First Ladies and spouses for their high-level advocacy efforts in raising awareness, implementing local and regional strategies, and forging partnerships with non-governmental organizations, health agencies, and community groups, and for amplifying their efforts and creation of a united front against violence against women and cervical cancer issues. We speak about empowering women and girls all the time, but we need to listen and understand the different context in order to provide the relevant solutions so that they can be transformational when it comes to improving the lives of women and girls. Thank you all for being part of this important dialogue. Let us make the most of this moment by engaging openly, thinking boldly, and working together across generations. Soifua, thank you.
Thank you. And now, as previously advertised, I'm going to come to the Honourable Penny Wong, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Australia. She moved from Malaysia to Australia when she was 8, and she studied law and art. And her first job, or one of her early jobs, was in a trade union, upholstery union, looking at employees, particularly, I think, refugee women, migrant women, working in poor conditions. She's held many ministries in Australia, and the mixture of her portfolios allows her to fully champion the complex needs of women and girls. Thank you. Penny Wong.
Your Majesty, Secretary-General, and my friend, Prime Minister Fiame, can I start by thanking you all for the opportunity to speak, and to Prime Minister Fiame, thank you for your leadership on this important issue, and it is such an honour to be here in Samoa with leaders, ministers and experts from over 50 nations. Gender equality is the key to the resilience of a nation, and it is central to the future of all nations. No country can meet its potential without ensuring all its people has every opportunity to reach their potential, and without human rights being protected. Gender equality is a primary predictor of peace, and even more so than wealth or political systems. And countries where women are equally represented in the workforce are more stable and more resilient. Yet we know progress on gender equality is off track, and we know that many of the challenges we face disproportionately affect women and girls, whether they be economic pressures, rising costs, rates of hunger, complications from the digital transition, climate change, natural disasters, and of course, conflict and other threats to peace and security. Violence against women and girls is a global crisis. You've all heard the statistics: 1 in 3 women subjected to sexual or physical violence in their lifetime. In Australia, 2 in 5 women have experienced violence since the age of 15, and on average, 1 woman is killed every 9 days in our country by a current or former partner. We are working to reverse this trend. We are implementing a national plan to end violence against women. We are also taking major steps to advance gender equality in the work that we do in the world. And here in the Pacific, we work in partnership with other members of the Pacific family to promote the rights and safety of women and girls in all their diversity, including through our flagship $170 million regional gender equality program, Pacific Women Lead. Remember, when we act and respond to prevent and prevent sexual and gender-based violence, we make the world safer not just for our daughters and our mothers, but for everyone. I want to turn now to cervical cancer. Despite being fully preventable, it is the 4th most common cancer for women worldwide and disproportionately impacts women in developing countries. 94% of deaths caused by cervical cancer in 2022 were in low and middle income countries. Women in this region die of this disease at 13 times the rate of women in Australia. 13 times. So Australia obviously has played a unique role in the development of the vaccine for cervical cancer, and we are on track to become the first country in the world to eliminate this cancer. And we share that ambition with our region. So we have stepped forward with the Elimination Partnership in the Indo-Pacific for cervical cancer. We've partnered with Gavi to reach 86 million girls with the HPV vaccine, and we're expanding this further with the Quad Cervical Cancer Moonshot Initiative. Finally, gender equality is central to our international development policy. We have a requirement that 80% of our development investment incorporate gender equality. Like all of you, we strive and work for a future free of sexual and gender-based violence, with health, safety and opportunity for all, and we stand with you as partners to advance this work in the Commonwealth. I appreciate very much the opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you.
So now we're lucky enough to have a special address from Her Majesty Queen Camilla. As president and patron of over 100 charities and organisations, it's very clear that she believes in all of them, works for all of them, but that very close to her agenda has always been the issue of women's health and the issue of women's safety. She's the president of WOW, Women of the World, and she is also the patron of Safe Lives, which is a project that looks at domestic violence and the eradication of domestic violence. She has, after visiting 9 rape crisis centres in 2009, she began what has been a consistent and determined way of putting gender-based violence on the map in every conversation, in every opportunity she takes, to the extent that she has convened so many different people around the whole of the country and the world to make sure that this is an issue which we are not afraid to discuss. And I think it was an extraordinary moment a couple of years ago when she threw an event at Buckingham Palace, having just become the Queen, where we received an invitation which actually said, this is to celebrate people involved in eradicating violence and rape. And I thought that was really key to the idea that we must be courageous about speaking about what we know is the case. She has many other hats, of course. Her care and love of literacy is well known. But on this particular issue, she has used transformative leadership to say, I'm a woman in power and I will use it for other girls and women. So please, can we hear from Her Majesty Queen Camilla?
Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it's a huge pleasure to be here with you today. I would first like to thank the people of Samoa for the warm welcome that my husband and I have received, and for your hospitality and generosity to us and to the whole Commonwealth family. I was delighted recently to come across the wonderful Samoan proverb, I ola ina e la, a chai machai. With apologies to the men in the room, I thought we might make this our motto today. According to a legend, a competition was once held between men and women in a village to thatch a roof of the house of Chief Tatunu. Although they started at the same time, the women finished their side first, as they had laboured through the light, while the men slept. As one whose husband is often toiling into the small hours, long after my head is on the pillow, I should stress there are plenty of exceptions. But the moral of the proverb is, women will turn their hands successfully to any task that must be done, and will work hard until it's completed. As we gather to discuss our theme, advocating for women and girls in the Commonwealth, we have a gigantic task ahead of us, for which we all, male and female, need the same spirit that inspired those women thatchers. It is this: to end domestic and sexual violence across the Commonwealth now and forever. And its enormity can be seen in the shocking statistics. Globally, 30% of women have been subjected to either physical or sexual violence in their lifetime, most of it at the hands of an intimate partner. Worldwide, 27% of women aged between 15 and 49 who have been in a relationship report they've experienced some sort of abuse from their partners. Faced with the vastness of the issue, it can seem almost impossible to know where to begin. Yet our Commonwealth's 75-year history offers hope, inspiration, and crucially, solutions. Leaders from around the globe are willing to meet as equals and have difficult and constructive conversations. The Commonwealth Says No More campaign, which takes a culturally sensitive approach towards ending domestic and sexual violence, is supporting people from all walks of life to identify and implement practical steps which we can all take to make homes, workplaces and communities safe for women and girls. We know that abuse can be prevented and ultimately eliminated, but only if we work together until that task is completed. That is our commitment to each other, to the Commonwealth, and to the generations to come. E ola ina e la, a chai machai. Thank you.
Thank you. And working together was the theme there, that we need each other, we need to partner with each other. We all have the same problems, we all have the same issues, and we all have the same bewilderment at times, but we must look at practical ways of making change happen. I'm now going to invite to the stage the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, KCC, Secretary-General of the Commonwealth. She was a very young woman at 21 when she was called to the bar, the first woman in 700-year history of the office to serve as the Attorney-General for England, Wales and Northern Ireland. And when she did that, it gave her a direct oversight into the responsibility we all have for gender equality, domestic violence, forced marriage, child abduction. She really understood the depth and breadth of the problems. She's the only woman to have been appointed Secretary-General of the Commonwealth, and she's placed a special emphasis on mobilising 56 countries here to tackle climate change and understand its disproportionate impact on women, and to champion women and girls in their enterprises and to eliminate gender violence. She's, again, a woman who's prepared to stand up as a woman and say things must change. Thank you. Patricia Scotland.
Your Majesty, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honour to be able to follow the distinguished contribution which we've just heard from Her Majesty the Queen and indeed Penny Wong. And I'm so glad that I have to follow my dear sister, the Prime Minister of Samoa, because as you've noticed, I've been following her in everything in the last few days. But this is an incredibly important issue for all of us. Domestic violence and sexual violence of women and girls is a fundamental ill which we have all pledged to eradicate. And I'm grateful to each and every one of you who are here for the commitment, for the inspiration, and the leadership each of you demonstrate in our shared fight to empower women and girls and deliver them from the abuses and the harms that have held them back. And I really want to congratulate all women who have the courage to speak out. And if I may say so, I'm particularly grateful for Her Majesty. It would be so easy to have chosen a softer subject, something which would not make people feel uncomfortable. But the fact that we are talking about this subject is because all of us who are in a role of leadership cannot stay silent. And I would like to warmly thank Your Majesty for your courage, for your determination, and for your leadership. Because 30 years on from the declaration on the elimination of violence against women, I wish that we were not in the position of having to discuss this issue anymore. It's an injustice which should have been extinguished, a wound which has to be healed. And 16 years on from the introduction of the HPV vaccine, which can reduce the incidence of cervical cancer by 90%, I wish we were in a position to say that almost every life threatened by cervical cancer was saved. But we are not. As we know, violence affects 1 in 3 women. But it's not just a statistic, because if we just look at how many women are in this room and count that it might impact every 3rd woman here, we all become exceedingly uncomfortable, because the truth is it could be anyone. At the same time, 650,000 women are diagnosed and 350,000 women die with cervical cancer every year. That's 40% of the cases, and 43 of cervical cancer deaths are in our Commonwealth. And we have the means, if we so choose, to make a difference, because when women are denied safety, security, dignity, entire communities suffer. Economies falter, societies weaken, and no nation can thrive if half its population lives in fear of violence. And no nation can thrive if half its population remains at risk from a disease which is preventable, treatable, and curable. And I want to thank Australia for showing us the way. These unspeakable harms are made worse in the periods of crisis, and we've experienced that. If you look at what happened during COVID and the lockdown and the economic downturns to the devastating impacts of climate change, violence becomes more likely, health and support services disrupted, and vulnerable women become more isolated. And so this isn't just a matter of health, it's also a matter of justice. And I am really proud of what the Commonwealth has been able to do. And the Commonwealth, building on the example of the determined leadership set by Your Majesty and so many of our Commonwealth heads of government and First Ladies, this has made a difference. They're leading the way and they're not being silent. So our Commonwealth Says No More campaign now reaches almost every part of our Commonwealth. And our partnership with UN Women and the World Bank and other institutions is successfully levelling the law for women across our world. And the whole system approach is succeeding. So together with the WHO, together with our partners, we are radically changing our future. Now, many of you will know that this is a subject that I have been fighting for and with my whole life. I started at the old age of 21 when I first became a barrister, and I hoped that the passion I had at that stage would mean that this terrible scourge would be eradicated. I fought for it when I became a judge. I fought for it when I was a Justice Minister and the Attorney General, and I am fighting for it now as Secretary General. And whatever role I play, I will continue this fight until we are able to say there is not one woman, there is not one girl in the world who will any longer be subject to this terrible, terrible scourge. But if we're to do that, we know we cannot do this on our own. We have to do it together, and I'm so proud of what the Commonwealth has done. I'm proud of our leaders, I'm proud of the First Ladies, I'm proud of the ministers, I'm proud of the societies in which we've lived, I'm proud of the businesses and the foundation, because the Commonwealth is showing the way. We're not just talking about it, we're doing it. And we are strengthening each other, strengthening the legislation, strengthening the regulation, creating and implementing actions which make the difference. And so I want to say to every single person in this room a very profound thank you. So often there's a feeling that what we do doesn't matter. In this area, what we do really does matter. There are women and girls alive today in all of our countries who are looking to us to help them, looking to us to be the light that they need to believe that it's possible to change. And if you want to know why we should fight so hard, think about the women who are putting satellites up in the sky, landing on the south side of the moon, coming up with the cure for COVID, transforming our technologies. We need our women and we need our girls to keep up half of the sky. And so I thank each and every one of you for everything you've done. I thank you for what you're doing by being here. But most of all, I thank you for what you will do to make sure that the dream that each of us had of peace, security, and safety for our girls and our women actually comes true. And I say, God bless you for having the courage to fight. We will win. It'll just take us a little bit longer. So thank you.